US President Joe Biden traveled to the western United States as part of his final major campaign swing ahead of midterm elections that the White House seeks to turn into a referendum on Republicans and the Republicans into a vote on Biden. Biden's three-day campaign swing will take him to New Mexico, California, and Illinois and will conclude in Pennsylvania on Saturday. He will appear at a rally in Maryland on Monday ahead of Tuesday's congressional elections. For the president, the outcome of the November 8th election is about far more than who controls the House and Senate. In this midterm for Biden, everything is at stake. If Democrats lose control of the House, Biden will be hamstrung for the final 2 years of his first term, at least when it comes to domestic policy. Most immediately, the election will determine what Biden can get done for the rest of his term and whether any of his remaining policy goals can go through the Congress. In the last 2 years, Biden has found it hard enough to advance a legislative agenda, even with unified Democratic control of Congress. If Democrats lose their House, it will make almost any further major legislations essentially impossible because of the veto power of both houses and the president. Then there's the impact on the president's broader political standing to consider. A Republican victory would mean weakening President Biden's case for re-election, which means if his party suffers heavy defeats, the whisperings about whether the president should step aside after a single term will grow much louder. Current polling suggests the Republicans are more likely to take over the House than the Senate, but both outcomes remain possible. And this scenario would have an impact not only on President Biden's political front, but also he could face a blitz of investigations that the Republicans have promised to dig and pursue into the business dealings of his son, Hunter Biden. Biden has said he can beat former President Donald Trump again if he needs to. He has suggested he may be the only Democrat that could do so. But if his party loses control of the Congress completely, Biden is likely to face increasing pressure to announce his stepping aside at the end of his first term and endorse another Democrat. Former President Donald Trump is eager to bounce back in the political game. Starting Thursday night, Trump kick-starts 4 rallies in 5 days, clearly putting himself at the forefront of the GOP fight for control of Congress. The rallies in Iowa, Florida, Pennsylvania, and Ohio serve a purpose: to reinforce Trump's increasingly likely 2024 presidential campaign. Now, reports suggest that Trump aides and allies are now eyeing the 2-week stretch after the November 8 midterms as a possible window for an announcement, though they caution that Trump himself hasn't made a decision and that, as always when it comes to Trump, things could change, particularly if the election results are delayed due to recounts or a possible runoff election in the US state of Georgia. Let's now quickly weigh in what the midterms mean for Trump. Trump has involved himself in the midterms from the start, making a huge number of endorsements in Republican primaries. In most cases, his backing helped lift his chosen candidates to victory. But November 8 brings a moment of truth as the former president and his party mull the possibility of him running again in 2024. The fate of Trump-backed candidates in tight races will be crucial. On the other hand, if Trump-backed candidates lose, it is bound to fuel doubts, even within the GOP, about Trump's polarizing approach. Now, Trump has held numerous rallies which advisors say help motivate voters, though some Republicans think his continuing false claims about the 2020 election being stolen are a deterrent. Aides to the former president have had to strategically craft his campaign schedule, keeping him from states where his presence could backfire against Republicans and where other GOP heavyweights like DeSantis or former Vice President Mike Pence are in greater demand or are more popular. Come November 8, if the elections provide big wins for Republicans, one thing is for sure: Trump will be the first one and will be eager to claim credit. She may not have joined any party and remains unaffiliated, but is hitting the campaign trail for several Republican candidates. I'm talking about former Democratic presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard, who has endorsed more than a dozen Republicans this election season. Just days after announcing her departure from the Democratic Party, over which she vice-chaired, Gabbard has been exclusively rooting for Republicans and races where the stakes are very high. Among Gabbard's endorsements are several election deniers and conspiracy theorists like Carrie Lake. Each time Gabbard hits a campaign trail, she talks about the reasons for leaving the party and why she is backing the Republican candidate. Gabbard has also been stressing on former President Donald Trump's impeachment inquiry and has raised concern about its transparency and suggesting it is being run in a partisan way. Now, the former Congresswoman is also very vocal about Biden's aid to Ukraine in its war against Russia, a stance that has earned her criticism from members of her former party. Since her presidential run in 2020, which ended with her dropping out and endorsing President Joe Biden, Gabbard has taken increasingly conservative stances on many issues. In a video posted on Twitter announcing her departure, Gabbard cited differences with the Democratic Party's stance on foreign policy and social issues. Now, the man who attacked Paul Pelosi last week has also endorsed Gabbard to be Trump's running mate. So if Gabbard is just preparing for 2024, she can take comfort knowing support is already bubbling. In Washington, D.C., Reena Bhardwaj.